What's going on, guys? K-Pine here and welcome back. And boy, do I have a good one for you today, because in this video I'll be featuring my very first open Master League battles with a free-to-play team. And to be honest, the only reason why I was playing the Master League, as I don't have any of those legendaries or other top meta mons, was because I needed to get 30 wins in order to reach level 44. And I really only have those from community days or spotlight hours, so I kind of just plan to grind out the wins and bring you guys an Open Great League or Psychic Cup video next week, as I was losing elo. So I decided to switch the team up because why not? It couldn't really get any worse. But I actually went 13-2 with two 5-0 sets with this team. But the most important thing about this though was I had an absolute blast with all my Master League battles. So I'm bringing you this video where you get to see both of my 5-0 sets, some of my very first Master League battles, and Rhyperior with the newly given move of Breaking Swipe. And with that, let's get right into the battles. Alright, getting to the first battle, we lead Melmetal into Groudon, already into a big core breaker. You know, those ground types, those stealing ground types, quite a decent core breaker for this team. But what I like to do is safe swap into my Rhyperior, since it very often can get shield advantage that my Melmetal can then thrive on to try and fight back. Here in this battle, my opponent makes a very nice catch of the Breaking Swipe onto their own Zacian. So well played by them in that moment, as now we're able to farm up energy. And from here, I'm going to let this go. I did debuff them with a Breaking Swipe, so close combat won't KO. And now, once I build up to Rock Wrecker, I'm going to go for the Breaking Swipe, because Rock Wrecker will just about take out the Zacian from this range. And because of that, my opponent does give up a shield to respect it. And now they're going to go for another Breaking Swipe, and that's fine, right? Like, my opponent at this point, their defense is heavily debuffed. Their attack is now very debuffed from the two Breaking Swipes I've gone for. And I'm going to come in Melmetal. I debated no overfarming here, maybe tanking a close combat and getting to 100 energy before throwing the Rock Slide. But I decided it was probably best to throw the Rock Slide from the start and then bring in my Togekiss to hopefully deal with the Groudon whenever they have the back. And since my opponent with their Groudon is staying in against the Togekiss, it looks like everything is going according to plan, as now my Melmetal will not have to face this Groudon, which absolutely demolishes it. They're going to go for a Fire Punch, and they're going to reach one last Fire Punch before they go down, but Togekiss can hold on. And now we're going to see what's in the bag, and it's a Dragonite, and this should be a GG's. As I'm going to go for an Ancient Power right here, which my opponent is going to let go. They are going to get the Dragon Breath down, but from this range, Melmetal can very easily close it out. All I need to do is get to back-to-back superpowers here. And whether my opponent goes for the Dragon Claw or superpower of their own is perfectly fine by me, as we can live a superpower from this health range, since Melmetal is very tanky, and my opponent concedes the match. GG's, well played. Next battle, Melmetal into Mewtwo, and this is a pretty decent matchup for us as long as they don't have Focus Blast. And my opponent goes for the Side Strike right off the bat, so no need to worry about that. And I'm going to overfarm, throw this Rock Slide right before the next Side Strike. See what my opponent wants to do. They'll most likely be letting it go, which they do. And now here, I'm going to overfarm more myself, as my opponent goes for the next Side Strike right off the bat again. So here, I'm going to go for the next Rock Slide, since I am expecting them to stay in. And now I'm going to bring in my Rhyperior. I'm able to get the Mud Slap down before they reach their next Side Strike. Very fortunate for me right there. And now they bring in a Zacian. And here, I'm going to build up to Rock Wrecker. With Rhyperior, Mud Slap, Breaking Swipe, Rock Wrecker moveset, basically in these situations, you always want to build up to the Rock Wrecker, whether you're baiting or not, just for the off chance you get the shield, which I'm very fortunate I do. So I'm able to get the shield, and I'm able to survive enough to take one close combat. They're going to go for a second, which I'm going to shield up because, again, I have all this energy and I don't want to waste it. So next, Rock Wrecker is going to come through, does take out the Zacian. I didn't want to risk a Breaking Swipe there because it is double resisted. Even though my opponent is double debuffed, I wasn't quite sure it would do enough. But they have a Bacon Bird in the back, so I can go for that Breaking Swipe, bring in my Togekiss, and that's a good game. GG's to my opponent. Next battle, Melmetal into Conkeldurr. You know, I was talking about the Groudon, the ground types being quite the core breakers. Well, the counter types, counter users or fighting types are quite the core breaker to this team as well. So instead of just sacrificing my metal, I do bring my Melmetal. I do bring in my Rhyperior just because it does have access to Breaking Swipe. You know, after a couple Breaking Swipe debuffs, may be able to handle it. But my opponent does swap out into a Togekiss, and that ends up working perfectly for me because now I get both shields from those Rock Wreckers. That's exactly what I want to do, because what this does is it sets up my own Melmetal to potentially be able to sweep, or my Togekiss to sweep, whichever one that I choose. I do let the first move go, as I know I can take a Flamethrower or an Aura Sphere from the Togekiss, and they end up going for the Ancient Power bait, which is perfect. Unfortunately, they do hang on from the Rock Slide, land an Aura Sphere of their own, and now I'm going to switch into my Togekiss. They hard swap back in their Conkeldurr, and it has nowhere to go. They get to throw that Stone Edge, but they are not going to reach another Stone Edge before my Togekiss charms down, and they have a Genesect in the back. And this is one situation where I'm very happy that I have Flamethrower. You know, most Togekiss, you know, whether it's Flamethrower or a Sphere, it's kind of a side grade either way. Personally, just from how my team is set up, I prefer Flamethrower, and from what most of the meta is, I kind of prefer Flamethrower. Aura Sphere is nice against those Dialgas and other steel types, but I prefer Flamethrower just for the sake of meta gross. And right there with the Genesect, also a massive positive to have Flamethrower on the Togekiss. But either way, next battle, Groudon Lead, another core breaker. We swap into a Rhyperior and our opponent stays in. So apparently that their only answer to our Rhyperior is the Groudon. And I get a Breaking Swipe off, and I decide to call it, test my luck, see if I survive an Earth Power or not. But they go for the Outrage. So based off that, I know they're running Sand Tomb Outrage, that I can survive the next Sand Tomb as well. My opponent, unfortunately, is just barely able to farm down, but that's perfectly fine because I do have shield advantage, and I'm banking on the fact that Garchomp is their only counter to the Melmetal. As here, they bring in an Excadrill, and normally Excadrill is pretty decent counter to the Melmetal, but not down energy and not down a shield. So I get to land that superpower, get their final shield. I swap, try and catch the Drill Run. Nice patience by my opponent. They hold on to their energy, and they bring in a Smackdown Shadow Tyranitar. Absolutely love the spice by them. But here, I know that's only a Brutal Swing and that I can survive it. So I'm going to let it go, get to this Ancient Power, which does take out the Tyranitar. And from here, the match is over, as I do still have 2 shields left. GG's to my opponent. Next battle, I lead Melmetal into another Groudon. So we know what to do right here. We're going to swap immediately into our Rhyperior. And since I am going to shield this first move no matter what, I do go to try and throw on Good Timing instead of giving them extra energy. Unfortunately for us, we do shield correctly. It is the Precipice Blades. And now we're going to throw one more Mud Slap and then the Breaking Swipe for Good Timing. And now here, I do go for the second Breaking Swipe right away, just because I know I can get this debuff off on the Groudon before they reach their next Precipice Blades, and I end up getting their second shield, and that is huge. Now, this that double debuff Precipice Blade still absolutely destroys the Rhyperior, but with this shield advantage, that is massive for me, because now I can bring in my Togekiss, they safe swap into a Mewtwo, and Melmetal now has a matchup it wants. It went from an absolutely atrocious matchup into the Groudon into a fantastic one with Mewtwo, as long as it's not running Focus Blast, excuse me. So I'm going to let this go. I'm going to save the shields for my Togekiss at this point. Trust in it, and my opponent seems as they're just going straight Psy Strike. I'm going to load up extra energy, throw this Rock Slide before the third Psy Strike. This should just about take out the Mewtwo, which it does. And we're going to see what my opponent wants to come in with here, and it's the Groudon. So now I'm going to go for this superpower right away. I want to apply the pressure onto the Groudon, which I do. Swap into the Togekiss, snipe the Groudon, get rid of their energy, and they have a Dialga in the back. Now this would be one of those situations where, you know, it'd be more advantageous to have or Sphere over Flamethrower. But either way, these charms plus the neutral Flamethrower will add up and be enough to take out the Dialga, as we are able to charm down. GG's to our opponent. Next battle, we lead Melmetal into Mamoswine. Now this is kind of another court breaker to the team, but the good news is we do outpace to the super power before they reach the high horsepower. So I'm going to load up, throw, when I get to the back-to-back, and my opponent throws a move right away. Either way, if it is a high horsepower, which it is, we are able to survive it. And now we get to throw off the superpower. The reason why I didn't throw right away as I got to the superpower is because if they did go for high horsepower off the bat, I would then feint to a high horsepower. But if I let them throw first, Melmetal is tanky enough where it can survive one of those moves. And now here my opponent's going to swap into a Kyogre. And boy, am I thankful they went into the Kyogre swap so my Rhyperior doesn't have to see it. So now I'm going to shield once just in case it's something like a Blizzard or a Thunder. And I know I can survive that Surf, try and get the charm down, just not able to. But the most important thing in this situation is that we were able to get rid of the Kyogre. And my opponent has a Ho-Oh in the back, and now we are in a very good situation. As even though our fast moves are resisted, due to it being Mud Slap as opposed to something being double super effective like the Smackdowns, the entirety of my opponent's moveset is resisted. You know, if they have Earthquake, then it could get troublesome, but most Ho-Ohs are running Sacred Fire and Brave Bird, of which are all resisted. So now I'm going to swap into my Melmetal, trying to catch another Sacred Fire from my opponent, but they end up trying to catch a move for my Rhyperior instead, and that's perfectly fine by me because I do end up getting their final shield with that superpower. So now I can then bring in my Rhyperior, land the Breaking Swipe on the Mamoswine, and then close out this match as I'd be able to reach a rock record in time. GG's to my opponent. Next battle, we lead Melmetal into the Dream Lead Gardevoir. We're going to see what my opponent wants to do, and they're staying in to start. So Gardevoir doesn't have any threatening charge moves to Melmetal, except maybe potentially Shadow Ball, but it is non-stab. So we're not really threatened there at all. Now my opponent's going to swap into a Giratina. So I'm going to counter swap with my Togetic, and we should be able to maintain swap all we want. If they have Ancient Power, you know, we should still be in a pretty decent position here. But my opponent does have Shadow Sneak, so we're in an even better spot than what could potentially be otherwise. Now we're going to fire off this Ancient Power, bring the Giratina low. They're just barely able to hang on before we get the charm down, but this is only a Dragon Claw. I don't have to shield it. We will survive it and maintain switch advantage, which is the most important thing in this matchup. Now they're going to bring in a Dialga, which is taking quite heavy damage from those charms from the Togekiss, excuse me. And now we're going to land the Ancient Power, bring in our Rhyperior to Mud Slap down this Dialga. And look at that Mud Slap damage. Absolutely crazy. We're going to show up the Iron Head, as that would do massive damage in return. And here I'm just going to go for the Mud Slap down. My opponent realizes it. They bring in their Gardevoir. Now I'm going to go for the Rock Wrecker. I mean, yeah, I could have gone for a Breaking Swipe bait, since it's technically their last Mon. They kind of have to shield it. But I wanted to guarantee the shield with the Rock Wrecker, since I know that Melmetal has a fantastic matchup here against the Gardevoir. But I will shield up the Shadow Ball against the Gardevoir, knowing that that is probably most likely the most threatening move that's left in the game. And now I can bring in my Melmetal, make it to the back-to-back superpowers, of which my opponent realizes, and they concede the game. GG's. Next battle, we lead Melmetal into Ho-Oh. And this is like a throw 7 Thunder Shocks and then swap. Throw 7 Thunder Shocks, throw your Rock Slide, and then swap into your Rhyperior. Ho-Oh can survive one Rock Slide. The reason why I swap into my Rhyperior is to either catch their move after I throw the Rock Slide. I swap into the Rhyperior to catch their move, or to bait out another Pokemon that maybe Melmetal can get extra energy upon. My opponent tries to go for a Rock Slide catch onto their Groudon, and that is perfectly fine by me because I have a fantastic answer in my Togekiss here. And what makes this even better is that they're a dragon-tailed Groudon, so their fast moves, even though their fast moves are double resisted both mud shots or dragon tails, they reach these fire punches at a much lower rate. And I'm trusting my Togekiss right there. I'm like, you know what? I could survive that. We're able to on 1 HP, and that is huge. Now I'm wondering, looking at what's going to come in. If it's anything but the Ho-Oh, I'm going to throw the Ancient Power right away. If it's the Ho-Oh, I will be able to throw one more Charm than the Ancient Power, which I do, and actually ends up getting a shield from them. So now I can bring in my Melmetal, throw 2 more Thunder Shocks, and then the Rock Slide. You know, I could bring in my Rhyperior here, knowing that every move the Ho-Oh has to throw is resisted. But with all this energy on Melmetal, these double super effective Rock Slides are going to apply so much pressure, so that's why I bring in the Melmetal. But after that Rock Slide lands, I'm able to swap into my Rhyperior, catch the Sacred Fire, and they do get the attack debuff, but they have a Dialga in the back, and this match is going to be over, as this Mud Slap and Breaking Swipe combination is going to be absolutely brutal. Can't quite get the 2-shield flex, as I will shield up this Iron Head, throw off this next Breaking Swipe, which should just about be enough to take out the Dialga. That plus a couple more Mud Slaps takes it out. In comes the Ho-Oh, which is on fractional HP, and they concede the match. GG's to my opponent. Next battle, we lead Melmetal into Dragonite. It's a pretty decent lead for us, just because they have to debuff themselves if they want to do any meaningful damage with Superpower. Plus, Superpower does not one-shot our Melmetal. So they're going to swap out into the Excadrill, and I'm going to go for a Superpower dip to either do massive damage or guarantee a shield. We are able to guarantee a shield, but now I can bring in my Rhyperior to just Mud Slap all the way down. I will tank one Drill Run, shield one Drill Run, and be able to Mud Slap this Excadrill all the way down before they reach a third move. Back in comes to Dragonite, and hey, they're down a shield. They have a Melmetal waiting for it. I go for the Rock Wrecker right away, not expecting them to shield, which they don't. And Dragonite almost gets one shot as they bring in a Metagross. And now this is kind of a little difficult still. Since we're not able to reach that Breaking Swipe, that Metagross can do a lot of work into our Melmetal here. And also, with the Earthquake nerf, Melmetal can kind of tank an EQ, so I decide to call the bait, risk it, knowing that, hey, if they do go for the EQ off the bat, I can still survive, but they don't. They go for the Meteor Mash, and that is fantastic. So now we can go for that Superpower, guarantee that shield, swap to catch their next Meteor Mash, and even though they get the Bullet Punch down, they are nowhere near back-to-back moves themselves as we get to the back-to-back ourselves to close out this game. For Superpower lands, leaves them on minimal HP. They will go for the Meteor Mash here, which we can easily just shield up, get to this next Superpower of our own to finish off their Metagross. GG's to my opponent. Next battle, we lead Melmetal into another Melmetal. So a Melmetal mirror match. We're gonna see how this goes, because obviously this is my first Melmetal mirror match. It's like, you know, if they throw first, then maybe my next Superpower will bring them into the range, or whatnot. Maybe trying to see how any advantage I can get into this matchup. They do go for the first Superpower, and honestly, since Melmetal's pretty tanky, their defense is dropped, but that Superpower really didn't seem to do much more than the next one. And now since we're on even defense again, their Superpower will just about be around enough to take me out, so I will commit the shield, save my Melmetal for later, and now they bring in a Machamp, and I'm like, uh-oh. Because Machamp can do really well against Rhyperior and my own Melmetal. But we're going to see what I can do in this situation. So we're running a free-to-play budget team. Looks like my opponent is doing the same here as well, as they do shield up the Breaking Swipe. So now I'm going to wait out my clock, bring in my Togekiss to tank this energy from the Machamp. They will throw off a Rock Slide, but this is a debuffed Rock Slide, so I don't have much to worry about. And now we're going to see my opponent brings in, as they bring in a Togekiss of their own. So as soon as my switch clock comes up, I'm going to bring in my Melmetal that I saved from earlier. And I'm in a pretty decent position here. My opponent goes for the Ancient Power off the bat, and that's kind of a little bit of a misplay, as it forces me to not have to give up my last shield. So now I can go for this Rock Slide, go for this next Rock Slide as well. I throw it right away, just because I wasn't quite sure if I could survive that last charm. Looking back on it, you know, I would be able to. But it's fine, as we're still able to get the farm down. And with a shield advantage, Togekiss will easily charm down this Machamp, as we do give up our last shield to the Cross Chop and take them out. GG's to my opponent, well played. So, first impressions. Breaking Swipe Rhyperior is an absolute unit. Being able to apply those Breaking Swipe attack debuffs as well as the Mud Slap fast move pressure, it can put a lot of hurt on your opponents. Also, as I mentioned earlier, I had an absolute blast with these Master League battles that, who knows, I may be able to bring you guys some Master League Premier content the next time it rolls around as well. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate you. If you enjoyed it, please drop a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Love to hear what you have to say. And with that, I'll catch you in the next one.